Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. We are back for another discussion about the implications of the election of Donald Trump. Unbelievable. Thank God. It's breathtaking to see where we are right now. So we did one segment about your observations of the implication of the next Trump presidency on conflicts around the world. I want to bring it now to Latin America, South American countries.
Let's talk Monroe Doctrine.
Let's talk Monroe Doctrine. Great point. So we've talked at length many times on Off Leash about the tragedy of Maduro's grip on Venezuela and his stolen election there. You have been an outspoken advocate for the Venezuelan people. They see you as a voice in the darkness that they are clinging to, hoping that Maduro can be taken out. Let's start with the implications of Donald Trump's election on Maduro's grip on power in Venezuela.
I'm pretty sure Donald Trump is not who Maduro was hoping would win.
Yeah.
And I am confident if Trump stays true to his campaign platform that the menace of socialist dictatorship existing in Venezuela is not something he's going to permit to continue for a long time. We did have a meeting with them in late 2020, about a month before the election, and the word was just leave with whoever you want, take as much as you want, but leave. And I don't even think that deal's on the table anymore. Now they just have to leave. Get the hell out. They have stolen the third election. Again, there was the Biden administration made a deal, took them off sanctions to cynically get the oil price down. And they allowed Chevron, Sergeant Oil, to start pumping oil. They're doing so, making money now, subsidizing the socialist government, which lost the election. Okay, we had a good election. Trump had a red wave here. Overall, 5, 6, 7 points. In Venezuela,
vote. Yeah.
In Venezuela, they lost by 40 points. Okay, 70-30, a complete blowout. And Maduro just ignored it. I'm in charge, flew in some more Cuban security people, arrested people, beat up, killed some protesters.
Stranglehold on the military.
Clinging to
Right.
power.
Yep.
So they voted in socialism in 99 under Chavez, stole the election, 2 of them, and then this last one they had in July. This one being the most egregious. There is a legitimate opposition figure. Edmundo Gonzalez won the election, and then Maria Corina Machado is who won the primary, and the government banned her from running again. She is fearless. She's in her late 50s, civil engineer, mother of 3. Mark, she has more balls than all the men in Venezuela, I think. Okay? And I tip my hat
When
to
her
her.
life's at stake.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
She loves her country, and she wants freedom and rule of law in Venezuela. There's ways to get that and to convince the dictatorship that it is better for them to leave and leave under their own power than to have consequences delivered to them, which will make them put their continued rule at serious risk.
So in a way, finding a solution there, the bed's already made for Donald Trump because Maduro's continued rule is unacceptable.
Sure.
Correct.
And he is Cuba and Iran's direct ally. I mean, there are Iranians in the country supporting the security services. There are Cubans surrounding Maduro, keeping him in power. The Russians, really not so much, because I think the longer Venezuela stays wrecked, it's better for Putin because it's that much oil capacity that stays off the market.
Trump spoke often on the campaign trail about the absurdity of the Biden administration getting oil from Venezuela and not from under our own feet.
Yes, and he said he made the somewhat erroneous statement that it's safer in Caracas because they've shipped all their murderers. They have shipped. They've emptied their prisons, moved many of them to Colorado, to New York, to Boston, the Trinidad. The guys that are taking over certain apartment buildings and extorting the residents.
Colorado and elsewhere?
Yeah.
Yep.
They have done that. That is unacceptable. Those guys have to go either into a U.S. lockup or ideally into a Venezuelan lockup where they spend the rest of their miserable lives. Rule of law and order must be reestablished in Venezuela. And that's something that the Trump administration can accomplish very quickly.
Okay.
And we're going to key it up for them to make that possible.
Does part of it require a phone call to Chevron to say, no
well,
more?
That's a simple paperwork thing to just immediately suspend their license.
Okay. So.
And maybe that gets done ahead of time with a phone call to say, probably better to suspend now.
Okay.
Because daddy's coming. And he's pissed.
Fair enough. But so sanctions back in place immediately, like that.
Yeah, we have plenty of crude that we can.
No, what's fascinating is when you, and off-leash viewers, they know this well because you've discussed this at length. When you take a look at this basically this railroad line from Venezuela, from the prisons of Venezuela, right straight up into the United States of America. What more justification do you need to recognize that this circumstance is not acceptable? Gonzalez has left the country.
Yep.
Correct?
He's in Madrid. He was, like, the poor guy, he's in his 70s. I don't think he was in for that level of a fight, and they were threatening his family, and so he left. But Maria Corina, she's there, and she is resisting.
And that discussion that took place that said, pack up your stuff and get the hell out, which now just get out. That's basically where Trump's going to pick up on this issue, right?
I won't speak for the man.
So we've got this great contrast in the region. Bukele was one of the guys who sent his regards to Donald Trump, the president of El Salvador. Congratulations to the president-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump. And he did so posting on X with a picture of him sitting and shaking hands with Donald Trump. So Bukele, tell me why he would welcome the arrival of Donald Trump relative to having another Biden term.
The Biden State Department has been haranguing Bukele in El Salvador for being too tough on crime, because he's locked up 60, 70,000 MS-13 gang members, right? And to join MS-13, you have to kill someone that's close to you, like a friend or a family member, to prove your commitment to the gang. And they self-identify because they have the face and neck tats. And so Bukele's...
You know who's a murderer.
Pretty obvious.
Because of their...
Self-identified.
Right.
And Bukele was elected on a law and order platform, and he said, enough of this. And they built in 7 months this place called the Sikot prison. We covered it in a previous episode. Yep. And they have locked them up and made war on the gangs, and sure enough, it worked. And now El Salvador is a safer place to be than Prince William County, which is where the FBI crime lab is in Virginia. Imagine that. And the State Department was haranguing Bukele for being too tough and too law and order focused, which is kind of in keeping with why the Democrats lost this election, because they have this very skewed view on controlling criminal activity. And
so why is it in the interest of the United States of America to oppose Bukele's policies on imprisoning these gangsters? Right?
Exactly.
Simply because they're conflicted with law enforcement.
It speaks to the greater cancer that we have of government-funded NGOs, which exist in the murk of all these developing countries, actually reinforcing, subsidizing a lot of malign, antisocial, anti-capitalist behavior, perpetuating the problems that we all complain about. Cut off the money to all this NGO nonsense.
Argentina. Milei has been in office for less than a year now. Is his reform of government, stripping from 21 departments and agencies in their federal government down to 9, furloughing federal workers, is that a model for Donald Trump?
He just fired their IRS. I mean, he dropped their pay, reduced the scope, and I mean, it's amazing. He is making good on his commitments to cut the size of government, which for them was unsustainable. Our government is absolutely unsustainable. When Musk talks about taking $2 trillion out of the federal budget, I think we can go deeper than that.
And by the way, that only gets us to pre-COVID spending, right?
Exactly.
How has this become the norm now, the new normal under Biden for almost 4 years now?
No one has been an adult and actually cut spending in 30-ish years.
And so
it was actually the Republican Congress under Newt Gingrich which got us to a balanced budget.
Sure.
We need
1998.
that level of discipline again.
And so do you see a good relationship between Elon Musk, who's going to be responsible for government efficiency under Donald Trump, and Milei in Argentina? Is there a good model for us to
I think Milei has got to be exceedingly glad at the results, because he'll see that small government, rule of law, capitalism works, not the lies of socialism.
So it's interesting contrast then. You've got these success stories in El Salvador and Argentina, and then you've got this age-old story of corruption
Socialist
and socialism, right? Socialist rot in Venezuela. But that has implications for their relationships with Cuba, certainly.
Yep.
Where does Haiti stand and Brazil?
Yeah. Cuba has massive blackouts for half the day now. I mean, you go to Miami and you talk to a cab driver and they have to send sugar to their family member in Cuba because Cuba can't even grow sugar. So Cuba is at the tail end of a pure socialist communist life cycle. They are now teetering towards complete and total collapse as a society. Haiti has been mismanaged, misgoverned, And I would say in the rot perpetuated by a lot of NGOs and other nonsense, particularly accelerated by the Clinton Foundation and the nonsense that happened after the earthquakes. Billions of dollars sent there, most of the billions skimmed off by NGOs and not actually spent to better the life of the people. And they never did it. They never put the basics like Hernando de Soto would recommend of property rights, rule of law, basic banking, the basic functions of a capitalist society at the bottom level so that you can actually get capital formation. It's just been one big mess for 200 years, and it's sad. And now Haiti is ruled, the capital alone, 85% of the capital is controlled by gangs. Not just gangs, but cannibal gangs that actually eat you. They had some really bad idea, the State Department did, to send thousands of Kenyan policemen. So sending Swahili-speaking black guys from East Africa, 7,000 miles away to an island in the Caribbean where they speak Creole, somebody thought that was a great idea, and it's not. And so the actual progress against the gangs is effectively zero while spending hundreds of millions of dollars on completely ineffective solutions.
What's a Trump solution in Haiti?
Get rid of the UN, get rid of those leeching, blood-sucking NGOs that are there perpetuating the same rot, put a actual police force in place that can go toe-to-toe with the gangs, collect the taxes, and I would make Hernando de Soto the Minister of Economy there and let him structure the economy, put the rule of law in place,
So
and go from there.
it boils down to governance.
Governance
Right.
matters. Why do we have millions of people that come to America every year? They're seeking the rule of law, that where the electricity works, when you flick the light switch, that there's water from the tap, that you can drive down the street without getting robbed or raped or murdered. Borders are supposed to reflect a difference in governance paradigm. Okay, this is how we govern here. There's a fence. Somebody else decides how to govern on the other side of the fence. I'd say this presidential election, was about respecting lines and borders, and that you enforce those borders, and that you expect to have effective governance on our side of the fence.
Well, let's exit on this because the numbers are still coming in, but it looks as if Donald Trump probably had a record Hispanic vote.
Oh, no, not just that. In the most Hispanic district in the United States, it was like 96% Hispanic in some little pocket of
In
Texas,
Texas.
right against the border. Last election cycle, he lost it by 60%. This time, he won it by 16%. So imagine a 76% voter swing in one district.
And that
Amazing.
district hasn't voted Republican in
Ever.
like
No, it's
100
like
and some years.
1860 or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a border town.
Yeah, because they realize border security matters. They're here in America. They're trying to make it work within the rule of law. And then when the federal government completely erases the border to have an unending string of people seeking opportunity, and some of them are criminals, have to have a process. I think we have to have an actual wall, meaning a barrier to illegal entry, something that defines one side of the border and the other, and you have to have a wide gate. Because I have other friends, I have British Special Forces friends that have tried to immigrate legally to America, and it's taken them 4 and 5 years, and it's still not finalized. $100,000 that they've spent on lawyers and all the other stuff because they tried to come here
The
with
right way.
clearly a lot of skills, not going to be a burden on the taxpayer. They want to add value in America, and the system, the bureaucracy, just crushes them. And so what's the incentive of coming here legally if you're going to get the runaround when just crossing the border illegally gets people to the same end state anyway?
Well, the Hispanic community is very diverse. So, a lot of them come to the United States from the socialist, corrupt, rot nations. So clearly Donald Trump was speaking to them. Many of them support a strong border because they don't support illegal immigration. Many of them come to America the right way, as you're describing with your friends. A lot of small business people, right? A lot of working class people who have been shut out by the elites in Washington, D.C. Donald Trump clearly spoke to them and addressed their concerns. Now that we're seeing the kind of turnout we've got from the Hispanics for Trump.
And the other big promoter of illegal immigration is big corporations who want cheap labor to suppress the labor rate, the wage rate.
And Donald Trump saying to them, you know what? You build factories outside of the United States, I got a nice big fat tariff for your
tax you
products
big
coming to
time.
the U.S.
Exactly.
It's going to be tremendous, tremendous. Look, this has been awesome. Another stop on the world tour. Now that we've got the next Trump administration is coming in following this tremendous victory by Donald Trump in the 2024 election. You're not going to hear it anyplace better than right here with Off Leash with Erik Prince. I'm Mark Serrano. Thanks for joining.